Good evening and welcome to the penultimate round of our GT3 Championship here at Simsport Racing International. This week we're at the wonderful Donnington Park over in the looking sunny UK over there, but I don't think it's quite sunny over in qualifying for our drivers who are just getting through that qualifying session now. I'm flying alone tonight in the commentary box as my usual fellow commentator Patrick Princey got lost and ended up at Alton Park for the weekend, which was not where he was meant to be apparently. He was supposed to be here at Donnington with me. But I abandoned him for last round, so hopefully he'll be fine with just me for the evening. We are hopefully going to hop over to qualifying soon so we can watch the pro qualifying, but I will keep you up to date throughout the race with the standings of the championship as we bring it towards its close. It should be a very interesting night. It was a great race at Monza a couple of weeks ago, and I'm hoping it'll be a great race at Zandvoort after this. But of course, first, we have this race at Donington tonight. So, hopefully, you'll be able to see some lovely views of the track, undulating left and right, as all great British tracks do, and maybe, like all great British tracks, we'll get a little bit of rain tonight. You can see Sector 1, nice flowing sector, the tight first corner that apexes way later than you think it does through Redgate, Holyrood and into the Craner curves, and all the way down to that right-hander at the bottom, my favourite corner, the old hairpin. And into Sector 2, which is a couple of right-handers onto a long straight, hopefully see some overtaking opportunities, as they absolutely send it through the chicane at the Fogarty S's and into the two worst hairpins on the planet, but hopefully a good overtaking opportunity in the form of Melbourne and Goodhards. So that's the track layout. Hopefully we'll see lots of action. It is a bit narrow here at Donington, but it shouldn't stop our drivers trying to make some moves, hopefully. As we see a lovely view down the hill there, that is Craner curves at the top of the hill you can see, and it's a Schwanz curb in Sector 2 that the cars are coming through now. And yeah, expecting them to carry a lot of speed. This circuit's a lot about commitment and keeping it on track as best as you can. And looks like we're going to ride on board a little bit with Tim Murris in his Honda. You can see at the top of the silver class, it is pretty much the people you'd expect. Itzy Medema is currently leading the silver class by quite a few points, by a grand total of 52 points leading the silver class, closely followed by Tim Murris, who is also second in the silver championship. And you're looking out for Callum Morgan, who is third. It's a tight fight between Tim Murris and Callum Morgan with only 7 points in it in the championship. And yeah, there's Itzy Medema's lovely tic-tac BMW, which hopefully we'll see flying around. Equally, as the AMs finish up their qualifying session 2, Wouter Vrints leads, and he is also in the lead in the AM Championship. And you're looking for Marcus Friedrichsen, who's currently down there in 16th place with only 35 points behind and 10 points behind him. Van der Linden in his Audi in 20th place, car number 14, my mistake. So they're the people to look out for in silver and AM. Silver might get wrapped up tonight if Itzy puts in a good enough performance, but we'll see. Does look like he's keeping up his usual pace, but he's only hanging out in front of Tim Murris by a tenth, and I'm expecting some pros to get in between the two of them by the time qualifying comes to its close. But we've got about a minute left of the silver and AMS qualifying, and then I think we're hopping over to the pros very shortly if they're not coming out already, which they may be. But there you go, Medema all the way to the left, nice late apex for that right-hander down through Holyrood, and then a fantastic series of corners through the Craner curves as we get a lovely drone shot. Fast on that right, cling to that left, and then absolutely send it through the old hairpin, deceptively named because it's not a hairpin. Not quite using enough of the track on the left perhaps, but again, keep it tight through here, and again, tight to this one. You want to open up the exit for this right-hander as much as possible, all the way over the curb. Use the stuff on the outside, it's fine, it's grippy. Send it again through this right-hander, another big commitment, blind corner, try and get on the throttle as early as possible. It's a long straight. If you get a slide out of a right-hander, it's really going to punish you on the way down here. Preparing for the braking zone, over to the right to absolutely throw it through this chicane. Use all the curbing on the right, all the curbing on the left, all the curbing on the outside if you can, but just full speed, straight line as much as possible, and into what I genuinely believe are two of the worst corners in British history. It's the Melbourne hairpin, which is a nice late hairpin. It's basically just a square. And Goddard's, which is this corner where the apex is far later than you think it is. It's particularly annoying in sim when you're running on a single screen and you cannot see what's going on, but just to pray. And Medema comes into the pits. It looks like he is leading the silver qualifying for now with a 126.8. We're expecting to see perhaps 125s from some other pro drivers. I don't think we'll see them sneak into the 124s today, but definitely a quick lap from Medema there, holding his position in the lead of the silver class as we're riding on board with Denise Pope, who I think should be pitting this lap by the looks of things. Dan Lenson has set a lap in pro, but I'm not sure what's going on there, as Denise Pope, I think, just returned to the garage. And there you go, Medema with the fastest Sector 1 and the fastest Sector 2. But Bilsman taking the fastest Sector 3, which is surprising because the Sector 3 starts just before the Fogarty S's. So to see the Honda doing so well around the tight hairpins is quite a surprise. I would have thought the Porsche is pretty quick through there. But we'll definitely see how it goes throughout the rest of qualifying. There's a couple of yellow flags popping up, but as everybody that drives Sim knows, yellow flags are very optional in Sim. I think we've just seen Alex Crawford in the background footage there, flying through, one of my teammates in the Snack and Sons car. I'm going to try and not talk about him too much, as I always do on stream, but I'm going to talk about him while I can, Kersey's race. He's the lone Nissan on track today, so we're going to see how that does. I think he's probably hoping for a little bit of rain. He's performed well historically when we've had a bit of rain, and I think he's probably hoping for a bit too. It is a British circuit, so there's always a good chance at any one given moment it's going to randomly open up and absolutely pour it down, and then 5 minutes later be beautiful sunshine. So we'll see. And I've just been informed that there is indeed rain on the way. So there you go. As I say, British circuit. Can't have British circuit without some rain. Let's see if it interferes with the pro qualifying as Crawford comes along the line. Was this an outlap or was this his proper lap? We're about to find out. It was an outlap. So now we're going to see the pros tackle it. As I say, this first right-hander at Redgate is very late, and seeing Hackler come through, I want to see how hard this Ferrari manages to throw it through the chicane, actually, because this is one of the cars that might be a bit unsettled by the bumps, but no, it looks quite settled through there, actually. Usually the Ferrari's a bit prone to getting out of shape over the curbs, but Hackler riding them nicely, maybe just keeping his input nice and straight as he goes over the top of it. But we'll see in race conditions how the Ferrari fares. Definitely using all of the track there, all the way on the right-hand side to get as wide an entry into Goddard's as possible. And I think we're going to start seeing some times come through. There you go, indeed. Nard Cox currently with a 1:26.0, currently your championship leader. Absolutely flying, but qualifying is not over by any means. I'm expecting we'll see times all over the place. So we're just getting a quick look at Crawford as he throws up some sparks through the chicane. Car bottoming out over the curves, which is a bit surprising for such a high-riding car. And Barney just behind him, sending his way through. And we're going to see some of the times start to weed in. I'm expecting the pros to naturally be a bit quicker than Silvers, but as has been tradition, as that's very wide, maybe setting up for another lap there rather than going for a lap themselves, just getting themselves the best possible exit onto the straight, get a couple of tenths. It looks like that was indeed an outlap, so just going nice and wide to straight line as soon as possible. And this is Nard Cox. This is your championship leader in pro with 220 points currently, followed closely by Luca Filippi with 205 and Sam Spenkelink, his teammate, with 185. So they are the three to watch in the pro class. Luca currently sat down in 5th place in qualifying, Sem in 3rd, but Nard holding his position, championship leader with a 1:26.025. As I said earlier, I would not be surprised to see some of these pros, assuming the rain doesn't get here first, leaking into the 125s. But it's important that if that rain is coming, they get their laps in, and they get their fast laps in now. They do not have time to wait around. If that rain comes, it's going to ruin all of their lap times, unsurprisingly, I think, to anybody. And there's a big wobble from that Bentley out the back as we're riding on board with Denoit. Over to Luca Filippi's absolutely sending it through the Craner curves, sending it through the old hairpin, and that's what I was talking about before, using all of that exit curving on the left. And I'm expecting to see the same through this right-hander. The Porsche is very much a car that you have to drive on the ragged edge, and you can see in the steering inputs that Luca is not hanging about at all. There was our extremely active inputs, keeping the car from sliding around too much. It's just wiggling about, as is prone to do in a Porsche. If it's not trying to kill you, it's just not going fast enough. And I think we've seen the first of our 125s there from Barney in the Mercedes. The Mercedes not a slouch round here. I was wondering before which would be the quicker car. It's very sideways through the old hairpin. I was curious before. I haven't raced many races here at Donnington Park, despite it being one of my favourite circuits to hot lap. So I was a bit curious as to see which of the cars would have the kind of bop advantage through here. But Barney making the Mercedes look good, but very much driving on the ragged edge here. Just sideways through all of these corners. There's so much slip angle. You absolutely love to see it. And Philippi just there, I think just behind Nard Cox. I think that's by 100th of a second splitting the two of them. But Luca's not going to be happy with that. He's definitely going to want to get in front of those BMWs and possibly in front of Banny too, just to make sure he gets the best possible start off the line, as the Porsche is always vulnerable in a straight line to just about everything, and often GT4 cars too, depending how much wing you decide to run on any given day. We're riding aboard now with Mitchell in one of the Hondas. As you saw from the silver class, the Honda was the fastest car through Sector 3, so we'll see by the time if our pros are done if that'll still be the case, or if the pros decide to change that around. We obviously have a very talented Porsche driver in the form of Luca Filippi. I'm expecting to be very quick through the twisty stuff. But the Honda, an absolute rocket in the straight line, as we've been saying all season. We saw it at Paul Ricard, the Honda just gapping things in a straight line. I'm going to see if the straight here at Donington is long enough to make that move. It is a brave move to make into the chicane, but it is very possible to go for some overtaking opportunities down here. And you get another long straight with a hard braking zone just after it as well. So if you can get right on the back of people, follow them closely through the chicane, you can definitely make a move or two. And I'm seeing a couple of already a Let's Go Alex Crawford from Princey, who's watching from the chat, and a couple of hellos in chat. So hello chat, I hope you're having a wonderful evening as we're coming towards the end of qualifying. I don't think that's drizzle that I can see. I think that's just Discord noise. But the rain is definitely coming and should be here for the race. So how will that switch things up? I'm not sure. As we're looking over at the timing schedule, and it's quite interesting, because the fastest lap doesn't have a purple sector, and no one person holds more than one purple sector. So, as I mentioned before, I expected the Porsche to be rather quick through the double hairpin at the end, and Luca Filippi proving me right with that lovely purple final sector. But Dimitri Denoy in the Aston Martin taking a rip through the second sector with a lovely purple, and I think that was a Mercedes with a purple sector 1, which is very interesting. It's very interesting because those were none of the cars I was expecting to hold a purple sector outside of the Porsche. The Mercedes Bop seems to be pretty good here, and we did see that previously. I think we had Brands Hatch earlier in the schedule, and the Mercedes, especially in the silver class, seemed to be extremely feisty. So maybe the Mercedes is just good round British tracks, because it definitely Barney in particular is making it look very strong. As we see Hackler come across the line, he does improve into 9th place, puts himself in front of Medema, and we're seeing Mitchell crossing the line as we come towards the end of qualifying. So these will be the last couple of laps that they get in, and Mitchell, I think, does improve into 6th place, just pips Denoy to the line. And we're seeing our current pole sitter Banny. Is he going to manage to improve on the 125.9? It is barely outside of the 126. He's going to have to link up these final two corners nicely. That looks neat and tidy, but is it fast? And we see him coming to Garage again. You want to get really deep into this apex. It's way later than you think it is. Early on the power as you can. Flat out down this thing. Use all of that curving if you need to, and it's going to be a 125.8. He does improve by 1/10 of a second. Is it going to be enough to hold off the charging Nard Cox and Luca Filippi? I think someone's just yellow flagged there. And we're going to see the last couple of cars come around for qualifying, as it will be their last lap. I don't know if Barney managed to get a lap in. I think he did. He's going to get a bonus lap. He's absolutely sending it through the hairpin, but I don't know if that kicking up the dust made the lap invalid or not. Doesn't look like he's hanging around if it did, as Mullard steals P2 in the Audi, which is a bit of a shock, but a brilliant lap by him there. And still following Banny around, and you can see pushing the limits all the way over that curbing. Nard Cox in the pit lane did not improve. Sem Spenkelink also over the line did not improve. Sits 5th place. Watch for that Luca Filippi lap. Is he going to improve? Is he in the pits? Is he through that final sector? We're going to find out shortly, as there's a couple of cars already starting to finish their laps. I'm seeing lots of yellow flags. I think Banny is going to be the last person over the line. He's still the pole sitter for now. Is anyone going to change that? Watching the last car go over the line, it is Luca Filippi. Does improve, but still 200ths too slow to upset our pole sitter. So I think we're going to see Banny as our pole sitter, which is a little surprising. But Luca Filippi, fantastic lap there to pip second, and he's got Mullard between himself and Cox. So it's definitely going to be a spicy one. That Mercedes on the front row is going to be a fantastic result for Banny. I'm sure he's going to be very happy with that. Luca's going to be pretty happy with his P2, and he's even got a car between himself and our championship leader, Nard Cox. So just to remind you what you're looking for throughout the race, as we expect a little bit of rain on the horizon. In your pro class, your top 3 runners are Nard Cox, Luca Filippi and Sem Spenkelink in that order. In silver, Jitsi Medema holds a demanding lead over Tim Murris and Callum Morgan, who are going to be battling for that 2nd place. And in AM, you're looking for Wouter Vrins, Marius Friedrichsen and Arjen van der Linden. And there you go. Banny on the front row with Filippi. Mullard and Cox behind him, Spenkelink and Mitchell on the 3rd row. Denoit, Junior, Richardson and Hackler bring up the top 10. And there is your first silver, James Medema in P11, alongside Alex Crawford, who I'm praying for a good race for him and have now cursed. But we're going to be sat here for an hour watching them fly around with a single pit stop. And then you're seeing a mix of silvers and pros the rest of the way down, all the way to P24, and some of our AM drivers hanging around somewhere below that. But these silver drivers getting in the mix in the pro, or the pros getting in the mix with the silver, is certainly going to make things interesting in the mid-pack. They've been getting closer and closer all season, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out, as we're just going to wait a couple of minutes on the line for our formation lap. It will be a full formation lap and a rolling start, as is tradition in GT racing. I'm going to try and talk as much as I can, but it will inevitably get tired by the end of the hour mark. So do bear with me, chat, and I hope you enjoy the race as much as I'm bound to. As I said, I'm biased. I am British, but I particularly love this track. This is probably my favourite track in the UK, closely followed by Silverstone, of course. And it's going to be a fun one. It's interesting to see how long they're going to manage to keep it too wide. There is a big overtaking opportunity into turn 1 if people are brave enough. You definitely want to be on the inside line here, while the outside line is faster. It's not faster if there's a car sat on the apex. And I love this shot. We get this shot at the start of every race, and just look at the beautiful, beautiful liveries. He says, looking at the Porsche in its pure carbon, but it looks pretty nice in carbon too. And we're going to see some lovely liveries. You can see the teammates there of Nard Cox and Sem Spenkelink in 4th place and 5th place, Brands, Donny and Silverstone. Fair. I disagree, but fair. And then some more lovely liveries down the field. I'm just looking for Jitsi Medema's Tic Tac BMW, which I think is somewhere down here as well, is another livery of particular note. The rocket liveried Honda, also quite nice. And it is a lovely coloured Aston, that. It is a lovely coloured Aston. That is the Ferrari of Hackler on our right, I think. And there is the Tic Tac livery, I think, of Jitsi Medema. And right next to him, the Snack and Sons of Alex Crawford, the only GTR on the grid. Definitely one to keep an eye out for if it starts to rain. That fuel consumption, and it's quite easy on its tyres. And it's probably the only advantage that car has. Lining up next to it, a Honda and a Mercedes. We're going to be really interesting to see how that Mercedes fares outside of Banny. It does look like it's a strong car here, and we're going to see how that evolves over the course of the race. And it is pretty quick in the wet too, but so is that Aston on the left. I think that's Natafas's Aston there, is in the Wild Things livery, right next to a bright gold Lamborghini of, I think, Dan Lenson. And that's Abranosa on our left. So You know, we've been seeing these names all season long. We've been seeing them battling against each other. And as we look to wrap up our season, it's certainly going to be an interesting one. The lovely Bentley livery, but I always get confused with this Bentley livery because I think the teammates have very, very similar liveries, and I did get confused with them last race. It's a nice looking McLaren on the left, Jitse Medima's teammate on the right in the other Tic Tac car. And I think that is Wouter Vrints on our left-hand side here in the Belgian Lexus. And it looks like the lights are starting to come on. The cars are starting to drop. I think there's probably not long till we get off on our formation lap. But look how far back the grid is. The question is, of course, for these drivers at the back, when do they go green? At what point are they going to get a green light? Because you don't want to get a green light coming into a hairpin, because people are just going to run away from you. But with the size of grid we have, and it is a massive, massive GT3 grid that we have here at Simsport Racing International, it is a full grid almost every time we race here. There's always reserves waiting to race, so it's always a fantastic time. But if you wanted to get in on the action, perhaps for next season, considering there's only 2 races left, there's a link in the description, so don't forget to click that if you're interested in just coming and having a chat or joining in some of the racing. There's not only GT3s, if GT3s aren't your thing, there's Porsche Super Cup, there's GT4, but this is the race that we're here for tonight. It's the GT3s as they set off on their formation lap, bringing up the rear, the Porsche and the Bentley. And I think that is the Porsche Rari livery at the back. We did discuss Tim Neubauer's livery in Laguna, which was one of our first rounds, and I think we agreed that we were quite torn on it. And after all of this time, I can say with absolute firm sincerity, I'm still very torn on it. I don't know how I feel about a Ferrari liveried Porsche. It looks lovely, but it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. But it's lovely, lovely view down the Craner curves. As I say, this first section is one of my favourite sections of track in the world, mostly for just sending it through the old hairpin at the bottom, which is just an awesome feeling. And yes, Patrick, it is just me tonight. I am flying solo, but I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to this race, and looking forward to reuniting with you for the finals, of course. So if you're a viewer that's not called Patrick Prince and you want to see the regular duo over our finals, we'll get back here in 2 weeks' time. We'll be at Zandvoort for the final race, and you'll have hopefully the casting crew in full strength, full power, full hype. It's going to be awesome. And there's Wouter Vrints. He is our AM leader for the day, so definitely a car to watch. He's going to want to be keeping out of trouble there in P25. He's not got a massive lead to Marius Friedrichsen behind him, but Friedrichsen qualifying quite a bit lower. Vrints managed to put quite a few silvers between himself and his championship rivals, which is great. And we're looking over the front of the field. I think Mullard is the car splitting the BMWs, which is an interesting place to be. I'm not sure I'd want to be squeezed between the teammates, but we'll see how it goes. And we're just about to start approaching Goddard's now, so we're going to see the cars start to line up 2 wide. 2 by 2 they come into the first couple of bits. They're going to go green anytime now. Banny leading up the field. He's going to have the inside line for turn 1. Can Luca Filippi on the outside do anything about it? Can the launch of that Audi do anything about it? The BMW is going to make a move early. It's all to play for here. It is the second to last round, and we are green. Lights out, and away we go. It looks like Luca has got a run on the outside. Can he convert it? Banny to the apex. Luca round the outside, still holding it, still holding it. They're still 2 wide. All the way down the field, there's a bit of grass on the outside, but Luca Filippi, I think, just lost out. And I think Mullard managed to make up a place in all of that. And there is a Mercedes, I think, hanging around the outside, on the inside into the hairpin, trying to block off the inside. There's someone gone really wide out there, but the car's still managing to hang out 2 wide, which is impressive. Luca's somehow pipped Banny and got ahead. I'm not quite sure how that's happened, but the BMW teammates trying to hang it out 2 wide again. The fighting just doesn't stop. It's such a narrow circuit. One of the main criticisms of British tracks is it's hard to run 2 wide, but our drivers here are having no problem, and that's Wouter Vrints. That is your AM leader, and he's at the back of the field now. after a nasty spin. It looks like he's had probably has some contact, but Luca Filippi trying to pull a gap as quickly as possible, somehow pull the gap down the straight in a Porsche, which is rather impressive. But Banny behind, looking feisty, looking to fight. James Medema probably just trying to stay out of trouble for the most part. He's got Alex Crawford crawling up behind him, and Jonas Hackler in front of him, who is side by side with, I think that is Dan Jr. And we're seeing it is indeed Dan Jr. who's looking to the inside through Goddard's, trying to keep it ahead, but is Hackler going to get the switch back? He's been turned. I don't know if he lost it in his own pressure, but it's thrown Hackler out as well, who's had to run wide, and that is not a good place to be stopped. You cannot move there. He's going to have to try and reverse off the racing line, because there's no way you can go forwards, not with all of these cars passing by. And that was a very wide Bentley, nearly making contact with Dan Jr., and he is all the way back now, as we're seeing some people dive into the pits. I think that's Wouter Vrints into the pits as well, trying to get out of the way early. That's a very shaky looking Honda over the old hairpin curb. That curb, you do want to throw it in through there, but maybe not that much. Maybe not that much. And it is Wouter Vrints taking an early pit stop. You will make the whole race on a tank of fuel here, I believe, in an hour. Obviously won't have the advantage of changing tyres should they choose to do so, but maybe they don't anyway. It depends how the tyre wear is here. I couldn't say that I know, as we're seeing some Lexuses fight out. That is Denise Pope on tractor into sector 2, and Banny already looking feisty, using the superior top speed of the Mercedes because it's against a Porsche, and trying to make a move on Filippi, trying to stay behind him. Mullard holding position. Nard Cox looking feisty to the inside, pushes his way in, somehow gets that gap. I don't know where he found that gap, but he did. But Mullard has the inside into Goddard's. Can he hold it? Nard looking for the switchback, looking for the better exit. Mullard not giving it him, managing to hold it, and it looks like Nard's going to have another crack, another time. The question is now, is he starting to hold up Sem Spenkelik? And they are all the way over that pit lane, all the way over on the left, trying to maximise the entry. Sem Spenkelik setting the fastest lap of the race behind his teammate, and these five, I'm sure, are going to be fighting right to the end. I say five, but it's close, even down to, I think, 8th place back there. And all the way onto the left, over the curve for the old hairpin. I just love that corner. That corner is full send. You want to be flat on the throttle well before the apex. Send it through, but they're keeping formation here for now. It looks like things are starting to settle down, but Sem is looking very spicy behind Nard Cox there. I wonder what the comms are like. I'm sure they're in a Discord call together at the moment going, can you just shift over or hurry up a bit? Come on, get out the way. But they're, of course, also fighting for the championship, so I don't think Nard's going to give him any breathing room very easily, but they're split from their championship leader, Luca. And this is how I think he got the lead. And it looks like Banny's had a bit of a wiggle on the old hairpin. It's causing him to understeer out wide, and Lucas just gone, all right, thank you very much. And then Banny's held up quite a few cars behind. It looks like that Audi looked for a go, but I think they just got bunched up so hard that it really let Luca just run away. But somehow, in all of that action, Banny's got through. And it looks like Miller's going to have a go as well. But Lucas smartly just closes the gap there, closes the door on the outside. Now, the question is, Banny, with our best qualifying lap, can he run away? Can he make a gap before Luca tries to push another mistake out of him? We've seen it happen through this section. It only takes a little bit of a clip of that curb, a bit more than you wanted, even in a Mercedes, and you're understeering out into that grass. So Luca's going to be trying to keep up right behind him, and Nard Cox again looking very racy behind Mullard there, as he absolutely throws it through Sector 1 and we're into Sector 2. This is where the Mercedes should have a bit of an advantage, I think, over the Porsche, especially down that long straight. But Luca's going to be thankful if he can keep in the slipstream. I think that's going to be his main goal, if not to get past. That Mercedes is very, very slidey through there. But it doesn't look like he got a very good exit. Is Luca going to be able to make anything of it? I don't think so. Not quite got the straight line performance. Nard wiggling about, looking for an opening, looking for that third place, trying to get on the podium. Banny driving the race of his life up front, though. Luca right behind him, seems to get a slightly faster run through the chicane, takes a bit of a wider line into Melbourne hairpin. But you can see, as soon as it gets into the acceleration zone, that Mercedes just runs away. But holding tight to the apex, really trying to block off the exit as much as possible. These two are fighting. It might not look like it, but they are definitely starting to hold each other up with the way they're driving. When Nard Cox manages to get a good exit, Mullard tries to run him to the left, but Nard holding onto the inside, decides better of it. Sure, he could have gone for a dive there, but decides it's not the time, gets wiggly on the exit, and Sem gets on the grass. We could end up with 3 wide through the Craner curves if Reagan Mitchell can get onto the back of this, but the 2 BMWs definitely running too wide. I think Sam's just gone, do you know what? Maybe I won't make a move. Oh no! Maybe he just looks for the better exit as they continue to run too wide, and Mitchell behind thinking, I want to get in on this, let me in. Looks like he's had a good run every single time, but Nard just about moving quick enough to stay ahead of his teammate there, Sem. And it's Reagan Mitchell looking for an opening, weaving left and right, compromising Sem's exit, and forcing Sem to take a bit of a worse line. The question now is, does he have a run on him? Is that Honda's performance in a straight line going to give him an entrance? And there's a Mercedes of Richardson right behind, and it's so tight through the braking zone. It is so difficult to run this close to each other in a braking zone and not hit each other. It really is a skill of the drivers as Richardson holding his position, keeping Denoit off by holding the inside line. Went defensive very early there, but it was worked for him, managing to hold each other off. But the more fighting these do, the better it is for Philippi, who's just set our fastest lap of the race, and Banny up front, who's just stolen it. And we're going to look back at the Banny move on Luca Philippi, I believe. It's into the braking zone at Melbourne Hairpin, and that is very late on the brakes. Philippi showing a lot of respect, trying to stay out of that, deciding it's not worth the contact at all. Banny super late on the brakes, dives to the inside, somehow gets it pulled up. And Luca Philippi does the same thing to Mullard behind. Very late on the brakes, holds the inside line and just says, I'm not going to give you that door, not going to give you that opening. Very aggressive. Banny absolutely wants this win. Luca's thinking about the championship, knows that he needs all the points he can get to get on the back of Nard Cox. 15 points separates these two. That's 3 places within the top 10 or so. Separates these 2 championship rivals, and Luca does not want to lose out to Nard Cox by getting in a silly accident like that. So wisely backs out, chooses to fight another day, as we're watching Hackler start to get chased down by Crawford and Lenson as Medema just disappears into the distance. Just drives off. A significant gap in the silver class already forming, as we've seen all season. Medema wanting to get in the battle with these top 8 runners for the lead, and just about managing to hang on there despite not having the draft like the rest of the cars, who are running in a bit of a train from P1 to 8. And I've just been informed that there are some brake issues for Alex Crawford, so we'll see how that affects the race going forward, because that is not good. It looks like he's going to have to dive into the pits to fix them, but we're seeing 2 wide from the BMWs again. Sem just thinking better of it, deciding not to go for that move on his teammate. Again, both of these guys fighting for the championship. Sem in 3rd place with 185 points. Nard, our championship leader, with 220. They don't want to get caught up fighting amongst themselves. They're going to give each other lots of respect on track. We talked to these guys in a lot of the post-race discussions. We've heard lots from them. We know that they will fight on track, but I don't think they'll fight too hard. I think they'll be quite respectful of each other. And Sam driving a fantastic race there behind his teammate. Probably wants his teammate to get a shift on though, as he does look like he's the quicker of the 2 cars at the moment at this stage in the race. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is a British track. There is always a chance of rain coming to ruin people's days. And there's Denise Pope, who's driving around in 20th place, chasing down her fellow Lexus, who's right on the back of, I think, the lowest running pro. No, that would still be Dave Jr. after the spin early, who's down in 28th. But Van der Kram in the 253 McLaren, struggling to hold up these silvers, and now he's getting very close behind him in the braking zone. The Lexus a bit of a rocket on the straights, as it looks like Denise might have a move. Tractor got held up in the acceleration zone by that McLaren, holds the inside line. There's lots of weaving around behind them going, and it looks like there's an Audi trying to sneak up the inside there as well. I'm not sure who that Audi is. It might be Van Schaik looking up the inside of Denise Pope, who now has to defend into Garards. It is indeed Van Schaik, and he is looking for a switchback on Denise Pope. And this is the thing, when you're running this close car to car, you're looking for the attack on the car in front of you, but if it doesn't work, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to the car behind. And the advantage, of course, in that final sector being if you go in the right and you go around the outside, you then get the inside for the left, which is usually the better line, to kind of force your opponent. out wide, or your rivals. So that kind of right-left hairpin at the end definitely makes it a bit of an interesting overtaking zone. Probably two of the heaviest braking zones on the track, almost certainly, and definitely the slowest. These guys will be travelling around a lap as we're too wide through Schwant's curb into McLean's, and it looks like there may have been a bit of contact that just pushed that Mercedes out. I don't know if he lost it or if he got a bit of a door banging there. Of course, door banging a regular feature of GT racing. These cars are not light. They will quite happily bang against each other, but in sim it can sometimes be a bit unpredictable what they'll do when they do. Netcode gets involved and it's not great, but it looks like everyone managed to survive just fine. Luca Filippi hanging onto the back of Banny, starting to pull a gap from Mullard. These two absolutely flying. Banny still the fastest lap of the race. We're expecting that to change positions as the fuel load wears down. The question, of course, of whether people will take fresh tyres is still unknown. Whether people are even taking a lot of fuel is also unknown. You know, Luca might be following Banny down here, sitting on a full tank of fuel and going, well, he's only running half a tank, and I'm going to beat him in the pit stop. I doubt it. It's a Porsche, and it changes rapidly. It's the way it transfers its weight throughout the race. It's a completely different feeling car on a full tank to an empty tank, so I would be shocked if Filippi wasn't going for a half tank kind of strategy. But sometimes these guys will overfuel a bit and hope for a bit of rain or an incident or something to happen to slow up the rest of the field and dive into the pit lanes as quickly as they can. I think this is the fight that's going to be of interest as the field starts to split out. This is the fight for fourth place. We've got Nard, Cox, Sem Splinkling and Reagan Mitchell. These guys have been fighting all season long. All season long these guys have been up there fighting for podiums, fighting for wins, and Reagan Mitchell will definitely want to take one off the BMWs and get his name in lights as he's looking through this final sector. We did see the Honda in the silver class was particularly quick through this sector, but I do question in the hands of these pro drivers where mistakes are less common. I say as Nard Cox runs wide, which of these cars is quicker? Nard Cox did run wide. Is that going to compromise Sem, which will push him back into Reagan? I'm sure we're about to find out into turn one. Still not much in it. Everyone just kind of training along and just relaxing, I guess. It is still early in the race. No one's going for anything too crazy. And I think they're just trying to find their pace. They're trying to find the groove, get all the way out onto that left-hand side, all the way out onto that right-hand side. As I say, it's Reagan Mitchell runs wide, so he may not be cruising around. It doesn't look like he's pushing. And the Honda doesn't like that. The Honda is very much a car you want to drive smoothly and not upset too much. But it looks like Reagan is going, no, I want to go quickly. And here we're watching the fight we watched earlier. Van der Kraan trying to hold up some of these silvers stuck behind the Bentley of Locke by the looks of things. It doesn't look like he's got pace on him. Is he going to try and make a move on the silver driver? It doesn't look like it now, but tracks are getting really close in those braking zones. You can see just not expecting the McLaren to brake as much as it is. The McLaren pretty notorious for having milk bottle tops for brakes, so it's very easy to get close behind it. And we're going to see if Tractor can kind of compensate for that. You can see him weaving out to the left and right, trying not to brake in a straight line directly behind that McLaren. You obviously, if you hit someone from behind, it's almost always your fault, and you just don't want to deal with that. So he's going to try and weave around a bit or hold a bit of a bigger gap, because you absolutely do not want to eat a penalty at this point in the race. But he's very close at the backside of that McLaren. Does look like he's got pace on it. Does look like he wants to make a move, but it's just stuck for now. I think I mentioned earlier on, the main criticism of British tracks is always that they're too narrow, that they're too difficult to overtake on. Donington, no exception to this. Fantastic track to hot lap. Whether for racing it's as good is kind of a matter of opinion. It is definitely difficult to overtake here, but it does look like the apex there was slightly missed by our silver drivers, who ran a bit wide. The apex is later than you think it is, but it is not on the left-hand side of the track. And here we see Van der Kraan sending it through Sector 1. This fight looking closer and closer, starting to pull a bit of a gap from Tractor now. I think what might be happening is he's being held up a bit by that Bentley of Adam Locke. And that Bentley, one of the wider cars in the game, and making it look very wide indeed, as we're seeing Filippi catch a back marker. And I believe that back marker is Alex Crawford, who did report in chat that he was having some brake issues, so just wisely staying out of the way of this front-running fight. Hopefully he's had his brake issues fixed, now running all the way down in 33rd place. We always find a way to manage to curse my Snack and Sons sister car teammate, but we do hate to see him running this far down. But as I've just been informed, he doesn't indeed not need to stop, so we'll see how that plays out for him later in the race. We have had a few people. I think Wout Rints is another one that stopped early that we should definitely be keeping an eye on as the pit stops start to come in. There is no mandatory pit window here, so they can pit whenever they feel like it. So we'll see. Maybe some of them are holding out for rain that may or may not come. It looks like a nice, lovely day out there, and the Tafas absolutely sending it in this car as the Aston's getting very leery out of some of these corners as he's chasing down a fellow Aston driver and a pro in the form of Abranosa. But we'll see how these pit stop strategies work. We tend to hear from drivers that they want to go kind of half and half. They want to go about halfway into the race and then just fill up for the rest of the race. But we'll certainly see. I don't know if people will be taking tyres here or not, which may have a big impact. If you're taking tyres, you probably want to pit as late as possible and go through the tyre set as much as you can. But I don't think Donington is a particularly rough circuit on tyres, so they might be fine to run an hour race without taking them. It is a nice short race for them. The Tafas just absolutely sending it over the bumps at the Fog RTSs. What bumps, says the Aston, and just happily complies. A car that is very friendly with bumps. We talk about the Mercedes a lot, but generally the front engine cars in this game are very happy to run curbs. And as an Aston driver myself, I can confirm that you can send it through Fog RTSs with almost no repercussions. But is it going to get slidey out of here? This is where it tends to be the case for some of these front engine cars, that they lose the traction over the rear wheels through some of these slower sections. So keep an eye out for the tail getting loose through Goddards and through Melbourne Hairpin. The Tafas, I think, just hanging on to Abranosa, which is honestly a bit of an achievement. Abranosa, not a slow driver, running 14th at the moment. Maybe the Aston just not that good round here. I mean, Dimitri Denoit would tell you otherwise, running in 8th place. But these guys definitely not slow drivers at all. So hanging on to the back of someone of the quality of Abranosa, nothing to scoff at. Tafas having a great race so far, and hanging out in that silver class. And I think that the rest of the silvers that we're looking at for the championship lead are a bit further down. I actually can't see them on the chart, so it's going to be very happy running where he is. Oh no, sorry, Tim Murris in P12 is second overall. He's going to be quite happy running in front of Callum Morgan, who I haven't seen on track, so I wonder if he's skipped this race. I just haven't seen him yet. But there you go. Van der Kraan finally looking to make a move on Adam Locke, finally getting the Bentley out of the way. That's what he was waiting for this whole time, and sends it into the chicane. Very respectful of each other. Adam Locke maybe looking for the counter-attack into the Melbourne hairpin, but Van der Kraan wisely getting early onto that inside line, ensuring that no one can get through there, and Locke not able to make the switch back. So provided that Van der Kraan can start to run away now, he's going to be very happy to see the back of that Bentley, and we'll see if the cars behind of Denise Pope and Van der Schaik can start making moves. And we're seeing a bit of fighting between, I think that's Tractor and it was Van Schaik, and then a couple of pit stops starting to come in as well. So this will be interesting to see where it puts the order, particularly as the AMs start to pit. And there's Tractor on Van Schaik having a fight right up to the old hairpin. Are they going to give each other room round here? Just about. Tractor manages to get a bit of a better run and just pull in front. That was tight though, very tight. Good respectful racing from these guys. We're seeing a lot of too wide through Starkey's Bridge and through Craner Curves, and those are not easy corners to run too wide at all. There is definitely a line that is significantly faster than the other one, so the ability of these guys to run too wide not only shows their caliber as drivers, but also the respect shown in this championship. And of course, we're at quite a late stage in the championship. People are probably a bit less willing to take risks than they have been in the early ones, but still showing great respect from each other. This fight between the Tafas and Abranosa, I think, is about to be broken up as Jonas Hackler tries to get onto the back of them in that Ferrari and join the party and have a bit of fun. And I think they're just ahead of Van der Kraan, who's probably going to, yeah, there he is in the background. Probably want to get on the back of this as well, as Natafas finally has a run on Abranosa, but Abranosa has the inside line, manages to hold it there, and there's been an incident. It is Ike Choose, and I think that's Dave Jr. in the Lamborghini who had a bit of an issue and has had to take some evasive action. It's not a good race for Dave Jr., and that car's looking very wiggly. I don't know if that's him trying to put some temperature back in the tyres, or if he's got a bit of a problem, but he's about to get done by quite a few drivers. That's the Porsche Rari coming through as well. I think that's the Porsche Rari of Tim Nilbauer that's managed to sneak through, but Dave Jr. having a bit of a race to forget here, unfortunately. Hopefully he can recover it a bit as the race goes on. Denise Pope and Tractor still stuck behind Adam Locke, still looking to try and get that wide Bentley out of the way, but Adam Locke not running too far out. And there you go, as I said, Hackler trying to get onto the back of these two Aston Martins has already made short work of Natafas and is looking to do the same to his fellow pro driver in Abranosa. Hackler has been someone that's been running in the top 5 quite frequently this championship, so expecting him to really wanting to get a move on through here. Someone that was racing, I think, in the Endurance Championship earlier this week too, if I remember correctly, but I may be remembering incorrectly. Regardless, a very quick driver, not going to be hanging around for very long. And Abranosa, though, also a quick driver, not going to want to give him any room if he can help it. As we head down to turn 1, it's probably going to be a little while before we see these guys going too wide into turn 1, maybe at least another lap, as it looks like Nard Cox has taken the purple lap. Not quite sure when that one happened, but Nard's starting to find some pace in that BMW, starting to get back onto the back of Mullard, and that gap for those top 5 slowly extending. I think even Reagan Mitchell starting to fall a bit back. They're starting to space themselves out, and we're going to see how it develops. Nard, it looks like Hackler's fallen back a bit from Abranosa. Abranosa's managed to pull a bit of a gap. Not quite sure how that's happened. Oh, he's fallen back. It looks like Abranosa's actually had an incident. The timing is lying to me, because that's Abranosa in the McLaren liveried Aston. Another strange combination that's fallen back. So something must have happened to him on these laps. Maybe he's run wide or had a bit of contact, but Hackler are going to look to take this advantage and run away, and Tafas going to take the place and go, thank you very much. And off he goes. But we're seeing them start to space out a bit now, as we're going to get a replay of exactly what happened to Abranosa here. This is, I believe, into Old Hairpin. Is just run wide onto the grass. We've seen this a few times. Does manage to rejoin safely, a bit wiggly on the way back. Manages to rejoin quite efficiently and quite safely, so definitely going to be looking to get that place back as soon as possible. But Tractor looking to make a place up on Denise Pope. Tractor, Pope and Van Schaik having a fantastic fight here behind Adam Locke. Locke probably thankful for the fact they're having a bit of a battle and slowing each other up a bit. And there you go, Van Schaik looking to go to the outside. We haven't seen that work yet round here. No one's managed to make the move, but Tractor on really late on the brakes, dives to the inside, manages to get it pulled up, but Van Schaik gets a bit of a run. Can he make anything of it? He's almost in the back of that Lexus down through the crane of curves, but it looks like the Lexus managing to hold the line, having to compromise his line to the Old Hairpin a bit, carrying too much speed. Van der Schaik having no such issue. Denise Pope running wide, that's going to cause an issue. Onto the grass goes Tractor. Not able to make it by Van der Schaik alongside. It's going to be too wide. Denise Pope holding him up. Tractor trying to hold it around the outside. Manages to do so. Denise Pope saving the day for Tractor there. Stopping Van Schaik, going down the run on the inside. And that is a heck of a battle going on for his 18th place on track. And I think it is, if I do some quick counting, about 6th in silver class, if I count correctly. Oh no, 5th in silver class. So it's still a good place to be fighting for. Van Schaik goes down the inside of the chicane, but the Lexus, you get it for superior exit. It's not over yet. I'm going to see them go too wide. Tractor wisely defending the inside line, just saying, this is my line. You're going to have to go around the outside. Van der Schaik trying to hang it out there. Does manage to get a good run. He's now going to be on the inside, as we said before. On the outside for that first corner, you're on the inside for the next one, and I think he's clear even before the corner. Great move. Tractor looking for the switchback. Van der Schaik goes wide, and he does make it as well. Van der Schaik, bit of an error, ends up diving into the pit lane and saying, I don't want to be stuck behind this guy anymore. I need to make up some time on track. And I think chose to go for a pit stop instead of fighting it out any longer. So was that a tactical decision, or was that a planned stop? I'm sure we'll find out. It looks like there's a couple of yellow flags popping up here and there as well. And that is James Medema, who's gone off track, I believe, that would be through Schwant's curb, I think. And it does look like he's got a bit of damage, actually. That front not looking great. Remember, this is your silver leader, and you're going to be wanting to keep an eye out for Tim Murris, who's not far behind him. Not far behind him at all on track. And he's going to want to get that repaired as soon as possible. I wonder if we're going to see him dive into the pits and take a repair. And after all the pitting, where that's going to lead him out, because that is a big bonk that he's taken. That bonnet does not look healthy at all as we're approaching the halfway mark. As I mentioned earlier, we are kind of expecting our drivers to want to take a half and half pit stop if they're not taking tyres. And there you go, James Medema indeed into the pits to repair that very, very broken Tic Tac BMW. But expect to see some planned pit stops around this time as well, and to see after the pit stops where people are going to come out. And we're going to get a quick replay to find out exactly what happened to James Medema here. He's gone into the old hair. Sorry, that's not the old hairpin. I think that's McLean's, and he's just, oh, ow, just lost it on the outside curb. I did say earlier that that curb is grippy, but clearly Medema proving me wrong through McLean's. Gets onto that curbing on the left. Maybe he took a bit of grass and just lost the car. You know, it's easy done. You know, when you're pushing, finding a mistake, easiest thing to do in the world. As we're riding on board with Nardcox, trying to chase down Mullard, trying to get on the back of him. He's currently set the purple lap. He's still managing to hold that. We're seeing a couple more yellow flags pop up. That is Stephen Bartlett, and that is the AM driver in the Bentley, a teammate of Adam Locke, who I believe is a silver driver, who looks like he's just had a bit of an off in a similar place. It's going into McLean's. Seems to be a bit of a danger zone for these cars today. And here we're seeing Denise Pope, who was the big beneficiary, really, of the fight between Tractor and name has escaped me already. I apologise. But big benefit of that fight between the Lexus behind, managed to pull a bit of a gap. Now trying to make a move on Adam Locke for what is currently silver third on track. Again, some people have taken pit stops, but Tractor trying to hang around at the back as well, not far away. And Adam Locke looking to make some moves forward. I think those might be back markers. They're starting to catch all leaders. I don't think that is a battle for position, as Adam Locke is hanging out on the scoreboard behind Van der Kran, who is not in an Audi, as far as I'm aware. So that Audi, we're going to see if it drives away or if it gets pulled in, and we're going to find out if it's a back marker or a leader very quickly, I'm sure, because I cannot see the number on the side of that car. But Denise Pope hoping that Adam Locke's not going to get too far away, and Tractor hoping he can make up the time that he's lost having that fight. And looking back into the AM class, it looks like Van der Linden currently leading the AM class. He's currently third in the championship, but James Medema, our silver leader, starting to get into traffic down in 31st place. Remember, he's already taken a pit stop, but he's behind Ike Chews, who has also taken a pit stop. So James Medema has lost a lot of time on track, does need to make this position on track past Ike Chews in order to hold his position. And we're looking at Van der Linden now, who's being chased down by a very bright looking Ferrari. I'm not sure who that Ferrari is actually, but Van der Linden, that Ferrari's weaving around a lot behind, so I imagine it's probably a pro driver looking to try and make some moves as quickly as possible. Van der Linden hanging around in front of him, just holding his position. As I say, he's currently third in the championship. There's only 10 points separates him and Fredriksson, who's down in 28th, which is third in the AM class. If it ends as it stands now, Van der Linden will take second in the AM class, still falling behind Uta Vrins, assuming Vrins manages to make up a couple of places. Otherwise, Fredriksson will jump to the top of the scoreboard and will be taking the pole of the AM series. So he's in a very happy place right now, but still a pit stop to go as we see Denise Pope finally taking the pit stop. Doesn't look like Tractor has out on track. And we're looking at Hackler on Schroeder. Hackler having a bit of a charge. I think maybe ended up a bit further back after the first couple of laps unqualifying than he necessarily wanted to, and starting to make a bit of a charge through the field. We saw him make quick work of Abrinoza earlier, and now doing the same to Nicholas Schroeder. Clearly just better exit out of Coppice and just running him down through the fog RTSs. Looks like he's in a different class of car, to be honest. And it looks like we've got a drive-through for Natafas. I wonder if that is for speeding in the pit lane. But that's not going to put a smile on his face. He was fighting up here with Abranosa earlier, and after that drive-through, I think he's going to be fighting at the back of the pack and trying to make some moves through some of the AM drivers in our championship. That is extremely unfortunate. But Hackler not hanging around at all. And there is Natafas. I imagine he'll probably just take his drive-through now. He's come out in 21st place with Alex Crawford behind him. But will not be there for very long, I imagine. As we're seeing the McLaren of Van der Linden hanging out here in 26th. I think with another AM driver somewhere behind him, but I think that is the Mercedes of Schroeder behind. And there we go. Here come the pit stops. We did say about the halfway point. I was not lying to you, I promise. I was trying to be as truthful as I could, but the drivers were like, no, we're going to wait 2 minutes just to make sure that Dan is wrong. Which is fair enough, I often am. But here they come. So we've seen Dan Lenson get into the pits, and we're going to see how it plays out once these pit stops start to come through. A lot of the people leading on track are provisionally leading on track. There are people behind them that have taken pit stops. There have been quite a few now. But if you look in that silver class, there is a big, long list of people that have taken pit stops in front of James Medema, which is not good for him. He has a massive lead in the championship right now, but Yitzi will not want to be all the way down there, I think in 29th place currently. And there you go. Here's all the cars trundling through the pit lane, trying their best not to speed. I found out earlier at Bathurst in our endurance series, which again, if you would like to join, there is a link in the description below for all of our series here at Simsport Racing International, that pit limiters don't tend to like you. And sometimes they randomly turn off. But here is Wouter Vrint starting to make a charge through the field on Stephen Bartlett, who is yet to pit, dives to the inside, and makes it look a little easy, honestly. Stephen Barlow looking to fight back, which has not got the pace that the Lexus has. The Lexus just setting off in a straight line and says goodbye. Wouter on a bit of a charge here, which is great to see. Good to see our AM leader starting to make moves. And I'm sure we'll be very happy with that. Got Geens to catch on track now, as that Porsche Rari on the right-hand side pulling into the pits. But Wouter not hanging around at all. Absolutely flying through the field. We'll want to make up as many places as possible. But Van der Linden's still out there on track, so we're going to have to see how that plays out when Van der Linden finally comes through his pit stop. Of course, Wouter took that one early after his incident, after being pushed to the back of the field. And is Van der Kraan looking like he's being chased down by... Is that Mullard's Audi behind him? Who's taken a pit stop and come out in 10th place? So clearly taking a bit of an early one, looking to find some time on track, but he's absolutely not going to find time on track if he's stuck behind another car. That's not where he wants to be at all. He's going to want to make short work of that if he wants to beat people out in the pit stop. Interestingly, looking at the timing board, Tim Muris in the Honda doing rather well in the lead of the silver class at the moment. Is he going to hold that when he comes out the pit stops? I think the next silver car down that has not taken a pit stop yet, I'm just scrolling, is Reynolds, down in 18th place, so he should have a good gap. Is it enough of a gap? Is a good question, and a question that hopefully will be answered soon. Maybe Maurice is running right toward down. We have seen people in the championship pit with only a couple of minutes left on the clock, so it's going to be an interesting one to see when they decide to call that one a day. And there we go. There's Yitzi Medema down in, I believe, 28th position, running far further down than he would want to. And there's a lot of cars in front of him that he has to get past on track. Last we caught him, he was looking for Ike Chews, who's now 2 places ahead. So there's clearly something going on. As our leader pits, this is Banny, who's been driving, honestly, a fantastic race. We've been mostly watching the fights through the rest of the field, but it really is an achievement to just sit at the front of these guys and just lap comfortably in front of people like Luca Filippi, Nard Cox. Like, these guys have been on the podium all season. Banny having the race of his life, absolutely flying, qualified on pole, was running pole until right now, and now our leader on track is Nard Cox. But of course, pit stops are yet to happen. Luca Filippi in the pits, Sam Spenkling in the pits, Banny in the pits. Nard taking a different strategy to Sem. Who's going to come out and lead in the pit stops? It looks like it's still in the same order, but there's not much in it. Luca right behind on the pit stop. So now maybe we see them start to get a bit more aggressive as they come into traffic. That's not what Luca's going to want to see, but it looks like he's cleared the traffic behind. And now he's going to hope that the traffic starts to hold up Banny a bit. We did say before it's difficult to overtake here. In GT racing, there is no blue flag rule like there is in F1. You don't have to get out of the way. A lot of these drivers will, but if these two are starting to fight up ahead, which it looks like they are, they're not going to make it easy because they've got a race to run themselves. So they're not bothered that you're a leader coming up behind them. They will try and get out of the way if they can, but of course, your race is your priority. So Banny having to make that move fair and square on track, because that's very close between the two Mercedes. And it looks like that Audi may have held up Luca Filippi a bit as well. He's going to try and get out of the way and maybe brake early. We're looking at the pit stop of Nard Cox here, who's still in the pit lane as we're going through the fog of TSs. These back markers may have made a difference in this battle. Did Nard Cox get a clean in lap? Did he get a lap without traffic where Banny's having to fight his way through these Mercedes with Luca right behind him? That Mercedes wisely just running wide, getting out of the way, saying, I don't want any part of this. I don't want to risk this. Just you two get on, run your race. The question is, when they come out, where is Nard Cox? Nard Cox is not moving as they're coming down the pit straight. He's just started to move now. I don't think he's going to beat them out, but how close is it going to be? He's not a very long pit lane here at all. And we're going to see him on the right, and there he is. He's behind us. He's just come over the pit lane marker now. And I think he's come out quite a way behind these two, which is unfortunate. The back marker traffic not holding them up enough for Nard Cox to get on the back. But it's, of course, not over yet. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Dimitri Denoy and Hackler still leading out the field, but your pole that have not pit is Banny, Filippi, the Audi of... My screen is very blurry. The Audi of Ben Mullard. And then, of course, Sam Spankling. Apologise for that. Discord quality that I'm watching the stream on. Not always the best, as Discord can be. So if I butcher your name, I'm going to blame the pixelation and not my terrible pronunciation of everybody's name of this championship. But they are your leaders on track. And again, Ben Mullard, another guy that's been driving a really kind of quiet but brilliant race. You know, no purple lap here, just qualified really well, didn't get into trouble, and has just kept that gap to those two BMW teammates behind him. Been driving a fantastic little quiet race. Not really threatening the cars in front of him too much yet, but also not under threat from those two BMWs looming very large in his rearview mirror. So honestly, a fantastic race from the leaders. It's been a bit quiet, but at this stage of the championship, that's kind of what you need. Banny driving very aggressively for the win, but knows that he can against Luca Filippi. He's looking at Crawford, who's now all the way up into 16th place, having a bit of a recovery from a brake issue earlier, but having to try and navigate a McLaren in front of him. And just kind of driving around, probably enjoying his race a bit. I don't know how much of a charge he's had to make through the field after his brake issues. That will have clearly slowed him down a bit. He got himself some new toys to play with a couple of weeks ago and tested them out at Bathurst and found out very quickly that his seating position was not ideal. So I'm sure I'll find out later from him if the brake issue was due to him doing some adjustments, which it may have been. And of course, the other person that's had a bit of a nightmare of a race, this is Dave Jr. we're riding on board with, chasing down Adam Locke, who's just had car after car hunt him down this race. Really has. Wasn't quite able to make that Bentley wide enough as Dave Jr. dives to the inside, but will be on the outside for Goddard's. Is he going to be able to hang it around the outside? It looks like Adam's not going to make it too hard for him. Gets a good run, but we've seen Junior, I think both the incidents he's had have been here. Adam just about managing to hang it too wide. I think that's Denise Pope in the background looking opportunistic, but Dave clear by turn one. Well clear by turn one, should just drive off now. As Dave is an absolutely fantastic driver. And there's Medema coming onto the back of Van der Linden, who looks like he's holding the best position in AM class. He has had his pit stop now, so he's going to be very, very happy with that, I think. He's still seeing Wouter Vrins, who's currently in third in the AM class. So a good recovery. Obviously, Wouter qualifying at the top of the AM category, but had a bit of an issue on lap one that's caused him to end up in a bit of a poor position. So a bit of a charge back through the field for Wouter now, hoping to get onto the back of Van der Linden sometime in the next 20 minutes or so, but James Medema, even more of a drive to do after that big shunt, big crash at McLean's. He's very much not having a fun time. Tractor, yet again, looking on the back of another car, and it is the McLaren of Van der Kran, who is trying to follow the Godzilla Nissan of Alex Crawford there. Tractor looking very racy, honestly. I think he's been a bit close in some of the braking zones. It's been a bit scary. I think just the braking performance of his car really coming into his own here at Donington. That McLaren doesn't seem to have the pace. You know, the drive looks smooth, it looks pretty, but it just doesn't seem to have the same kind of bite that we're seeing from the Mercedes and the Lexus and these other rapidly approaching cars. So Van der Kran doing a fantastic job to hold people off. I mean, his line through Old Hairpin there, just absolutely wonderful. Tractor not quite nailing it and losing a lot of time behind Van der Kran, but I'm sure he's going to close it up on the straights with that impressive top speed of that Lexus, if he can get to it. What is rather a short straight before the Fogger TSs in comparison to some of the other tracks that we have had on our roster. And we're riding on board now with Philippi, who is fourth on track, provisionally second, waiting for some pit stops from Dimitri Denoit and Jonas Hackler still to come through. On the back of Banny there, who is not far in front of him at all, so maybe that Porsche. I think one of the things we always talk about when we're watching Luca and just Porsche drivers in general is how different this car feels on different fuel loads. So the question, of course, is how do you set the car up? The fuel tank in the Porsche right at the back of the car, and the engine's at the back of the car, so the fuel tank can really change the way that the car feels. It can become very oversteery very quickly, very nose happy, and you do tend to set the car up for high fuel loads or low fuel loads. A lot of Porsche drivers in very short races will run qualifying setups with like a minimal amount of fuel rather than endurance race setups, which feel completely different, who are kind of preparing for the high fuel load setups. So the question is always, how is this Porsche set up? Is it going to be quicker on high fuel? Is it going to be quicker on low fuel? I can promise you that these drivers will have like less than 10 litres in the tank over the line. They will be running it as low as possible to minimise their stop time. As we're seeing Dimitri Denoit come out of the pit lane now. So if that Porsche has a lot of strength towards the end of the race, maybe we'll see them make a move on Banny. Maybe. But that Mercedes has just looked rapid all race. It really has. Nard Cox looking for a mistake from Mullard. Just behind. There really isn't much in this. They are all in the same sector. They look nice and far apart, but we are still absolutely one mistake away from it being a completely different race. And it's an easy mistake to make around here. We've seen a few people make them. I don't know who that is diving into the pits. It's Stephen Bartlett with a stop-go 30. The question is he serving a stop-go 30, or did he get that on the way in? Because that looked like he was going rather quick into the pits there. Stop-go 30 will be given to you for anything under 100 kilometers an hour through the pit lane, I think. Pit lane speed limit here, I think, is 50 or 60. Anything under 100 should be a drive-through or a stop-go 30, depending on the severity. Anything over, I think it's 100 is the break point, will be a DSQ, and we have seen that in some of the other series that go on ACC here at Simsport Racing International. But we're seeing Luca Filippi charging it down, and there's another drive-through for Ike Chus. I'm guessing again that was for speeding in the pit lane. You can see that the entrance and the exit to the pit here is a very, very short pit lane here at Donnington Park. It's very easy to just throw the car in a bit hard. Some of the other tracks that we've raced at recently do have easier pit entries. It can be a bit of a guess at Donington, the brake marker. Not as obvious as it is at some of the longer pit entries. But yeah, just serve that drive-through. Definitely not going to be enjoying life doing that, but at least it's here. And we're not driving somewhere like Spa, which is possibly the most painful drive-through you will ever experience in your life. I know, because I served 3 of them on 3 consecutive laps. It's not a fun time, can assure you. Did ruin my race at the time. We're seeing Luca Filippi start to charge down on Banny. He's getting closer and closer every lap, but Banny just looks quicker through this middle sector. We see Luca all the way over the back of him in Sector 1. And that Porsche, we talked earlier about it being very quick through Sector 3. You can see there all the way on the back in the braking zone. A bit of a Constantina effect, but a bit of the Porsche just has fantastic brakes. And Philippi will be pushing that right to its very limit, looking for any edge that he can get. But Bani just absolutely rapid through that faster Sector 2 here, and they're coming up on back markers already, as you might expect for these guys who are lapping very quickly. They are not hanging around at all. I'm just looking at their lap times. They just did a 1:26. So, not far off the qualifying pace that we saw earlier. The fuel definitely starting to run down with just 13 minutes left. Not hanging about. Absolutely flying through here. And both of them will be pushing to the absolute limit. Both of them want this win. Luca wants it for the championship. Wants to extend his lead over Nard Cox, who looks like he's made work of Mullard. Junior trying to make his way through the field also. Just a couple of silvers in front of him to try and get through. Obviously, he had a nightmare of a race. He got spun around at Goddard's and got spun around at Goddard's. That kind of happened twice. Just trying to find some positions as that Mercedes on his left runs very wide. I think that was Reynolds. Just not quite getting the corner right. So that's a free position for Junior. He'll say thank you very much and get on his way. And we're seeing Yitzi Medema on the back of Van Schaik here, looking to make some places up, finally getting into a battle with some silvers, finally managing to make those moves. As I say, this is our championship leader in silver by some ways. Van der Schaik with a big dive on this Honda. That Honda, I think, got a bit of contact from Medema as well, unfortunately. Just got the corner a bit wrong. I don't know if that was the Honda of Bilsma, who's just lost a few places, but it doesn't look very well. I don't know if that's a driver issue. It is indeed the Honda of Bilsma. I don't know if he's had a problem or if he's just driving a bit slow, but that does look a bit off pace. But Medema and Van Schaik having no mercy, saying, if you're going to leave the door open, something Ayrton Senna quote, which we of course don't condone here at Simsport Racing International. Go for a gap when it's safe to do so, of course. And we're looking further back on the field. I think that... Ooh, I don't know what's happened to this pro driver, running down in 34th place. That is never where you want to see a pro. Of course, a lot of the cars in front of them have served their pit stops, but that Porsche, not having a good time. Not at all. So that is the Porsche of Partes at the back. The tractor still looking racy, still looking for this position, and I think that's Dave Jr. on the back, who's about to say, you wanted a race? Well, I'll bring you on. This has just been an absolute charge, this race, Dave Jr., after his incidents earlier. Very much just scything through the field of silvers, proving to people why he's a pro driver. He's been one of our quicker pros throughout the season and absolutely demonstrating that now. We'll see what he can make happen in these last 10 minutes or so. How far up the field can Dave Jr. recover from being essentially last place by the end of about lap 3? And just hanging around as we enter Sector 2 now. Tractor probably thinking about how he defends or thinking about how he lets him past most easily. He runs wide there. That's not going to make it easy. They're going to be too wide going into Coppice. It's a dangerous corner to go too wide into, but they managed to make it work. Tractor compromising the exit of Dave Jr., who's going to have to back off now. He got the inside line, but unfortunately had his exit compromised a bit. Tractor got a better one, but going into the chicane at Fogarty S's, Dave Jr. is going to try and get the best exit that he can, and that is a very good exit. That is a very good exit. Got a little bit of wheel spin on the outside, but probably going to look for a move to the inside into Melbourne hairpin. There he goes on the inside, trying to hang it around the outside. Tractor giving him the room to do so. Tries to get a better exit, gets a bit of a slide on, but should be able to hold that inside. No, it looks like Dave Jr. is clear, but isn't going to defend the inside, interestingly. Dave Tractor going to go, well, I'll just put my car there then. And Dave Jr. losing out a bit. Oh, no, a big slide by Tractor means that he loses the run that he would have had otherwise. Dave Jr. now going to have the inside again. Good fight between these two. Very respectful racing, keeping each other honest on track, but Dave Jr. eventually does go through. I think Tractor's going to be kicking himself a bit for being a bit eager on the throttle there. And just spinning those rear wheels up. It is an issue the Lexus has. Too much power, not enough downforce. But it definitely is something avoidable, as that is a car in the middle of the track. We did not see that one coming. Third that looked like a Bentley. It is indeed the Bentley of Stephen Bartlett, who's managed to turn it around right in the middle as we see Adam Lockie's teammate just ponder through. And we're seeing another fight. This is a fight between, I think, Tim Muris and Jonas Hakkela. Tim Muris holding the inside line, Hakkela looking for a switchback, but Muris wisely parks on the apex, says no, hang fire a minute, gets himself a better exit and starts to run away. But how long till Hakkela is back on the back of Tim Muris here? I don't think it's going to be very long. Hakkela looking like he's getting some very good mid-apex speeds. Those mid-engine cars, fantastic at carrying the speed throughout. And Jonas Hakkela making great use of it to hang on to the back of Tim Muris, who's currently leading our silver class and is currently second in our silver championship. He's going to be very happy to take those 50 points and get himself a bit closer to Jitse Medema and make that fight between the silvers a bit closer with how far down Jitse is currently running in the silver class. Means it's going to be a nice fight in 2 weeks' time at Zandvoort, which you're definitely going to join us for, dear viewer, of course. If you wanted to schedule for that, or you wanted to get involved in the next season, again, Discord link in the description. As we see Philippi finally getting onto the back of Bani, and I think this is getting closer and closer with 8 minutes left. How desperate are the moves going to look? At what point does Philippi just send it? Because we've been saying all race, Porsche not quick in a straight line, very quick through this sector. Where do you make the move when you have a car that is slower in a straight line? Because look at the apex speed that they're both carrying. I mean, they're both pushing right to the limits. You can see it on the wheel there. Philippi wobbling the wheel left and right, trying to search for any piece of grip, using all of the track, all the way over that curb, and probably all the way over this one too. Yep, and all the way over that outside curb, almost kicking up the dirt on the exit. There is no room on this track left unused. It is a fantastic shot through Coppice over that apex. And you know, he's going to have to really prioritise his mid-apex speed at Coppice because he's not going to get the run otherwise. Despite the draft, he's not closing it down in this straight, but is he going to be able to make something happen through that chicane? It's a good chicane, but is it enough to get on the back? No, that Mercedes still, despite the draft, just slowly pulling away down the straights, and that is very close. Philippi's braking really showing up there. The Mercedes not the best on the brakes, the Porsche one of the better ones. So is that where Philippi can make his move? If he can get close enough, can he get a bit of a dive to the inside? Bani just not defending it at the moment, just saying, I don't think you're going to make it if you go for a dive. I think the gap's too big. A lot of poise, a lot of composure shown by the Mercedes driver here, hanging on to his first place position, just keeping enough of a gap that it doesn't give Philippi any opportunities. And he knows that. He's not defending the inside, he's just saying, I'm just going to park my car here. I'm going to be quite happy. You don't need to defend anything, but does get a big chunk of grass on the inside of the old hairpin there. I wonder if that's going to slow him down through this section as that Porsche looks right on the back of him. And Philippi not hanging around at all. It looks like they've pulled quite a gap now to Nard Cox, nearly 7 seconds the gap. These two pushing each other along. They're not racing close enough to be fighting and slowing each other up, but definitely close enough to be pushing each other along. That Mercedes punching a big hole in the air for the Porsche, and the Porsche in the rearview mirror making that Mercedes go a little bit faster. A little bit of anxiety, just pushing the drivers to take a little bit more apex and a little bit more exit curve and a little bit more speed. They're doing a fantastic job as they have to navigate. I believe that's Denise Pope's Lexus there. Is Philippi going to go for a dive? Yeah, Denise Pope wisely staying out of the way. I think that might be Jitse Medema behind her as well, who's also decided that the best move is to not get involved in this fight. Stay out the way, save your own lap time. You've got your own race to run. There's 5 minutes left. Everyone's going to be defending like a lion for their positions. This is not the time to be thinking, I wonder if I just let this driver pass for position. No, you've got to fight to the very end. We're seeing Jonas Hakkela on Tim Muris continue. This fight's still going on, but the fight for pole, the one that is of interest, Luca trying to maximise his points, trying to run away from Nard Cox in the championship. There's only one place separates them at the moment. If it stands the way that it is, there will be 10 points separating Luca Philippi and Nard Cox in the championship. Nard Cox managed to make short work of Mullard and looks like he's just holding station. Luca does not have that luxury. Luca, is the person behind in the championship, needs to make something happen and needs to make it happen now without causing a crash. Bani just looking for a win, just looking for any opportunity, and has been driving a phenomenal race. Honestly, you could tell me, you could put me on the cockpit of Bani and turn the rearview mirror off And I don't think he'd be driving any differently. It's like Luca's not even there, not caving to the pressure, not giving up, just putting in lap after banging lap, absolutely flying. Luca doing everything he can to try and get on the back, but I think the bop of that Mercedes is just built different here at Donington. Just built different, and it somehow gets it pulled up there. I mean, I thought that was going to go a bit wide there, but somehow Banny on the brakes manages to get it turned. But they're still coming up on backmarker traffic. That is, I think, Tractor and Junior there, who nearly gets taken out again. Junior kind of stopped his charge now. Doesn't look like he's making too much of it, but Tractor moving along to the outside nice and early. Again, the question is he going to be able to get out of the way of both of these drivers? Luca not chancing it, sending it to the inside, saying, well, you're going to get out of my way or we're going to have a problem. He has to stay close enough to Banny that if Banny makes it past a back marker, he also makes it past a back marker. And of course, if a back marker gives him trouble, he can capitalise on it. We've got less than 4 minutes remaining of this race. There's probably 3, maybe 4 laps left. Is that gap enough? Has Banny got the speed to keep it up? And we're seeing Jitsi Medema in the background fighting. I think that's Van Schijk in that Audi, looking to make up a couple more places, looking to maximise the points that he carries out of this race after that big bonk earlier. Definitely going to want to just capitalise on as many points as he can, try and preserve his championship lead, try and make sure that he's not under too much threat from Tim Uris, who's fighting Hackler for as many points as he can get his hands on. As we're seeing, I always just love this camera, seeing the two fights. It's all going on in the last 3 minutes of this race. No one is giving up anything. We're seeing the leaders close down. I think, again, as I say, I think that's Dave Jr. in the pro class in that Lamborghini up front, as we're seeing them go side by side, inside line for Banny. Philippi looking for the switchback. Banny parks it on the apex, says no, you're not coming through, but Philippi getting closer and closer and closer. How he got side by side I didn't quite see, but looking feisty, looking racy. We're on board now with Luca Philippi. Watch the inputs, watch the wiggle and the wobble as he's all the way on the outside curb, using all of the track, almost on the grass but not quite. That is the sign of a quick driver, when you're using as much track as you can. It's the best way to carry the most speed. But look at the wiggle on the wheel, fighting the oversteer every second of the way, and people kicking up grass in front of him, fighting to try and get on the back of Banny, who's just running away down these straight sections. Just the top speed and straight line speed of that Mercedes, just absolutely unmatchable by the Porsche. But the Porsche should be able to close a bit of a gap here, especially as it looks like Banny's going to be closed up a bit and slowed down a bit by these back markers. Is the draft going to be more beneficial, or is having to deal with sitting behind these back markers going to hurt him? He's alongside Dave Jr., who wisely just lifts out and gets out of the way, but it doesn't look like the McLaren of Van der Kraan has the same ideas. Banny all over the back of him. There you go, Van der Kraan finally gets out of the way. Luca Philippi not going to be able to make a move to the inside this lap because there is a car there, and that car is sticking around on the inside, decides to get out of it. Dave Jr. decides to take this opportunity to send it around the outside too wide. The front runner's actually making a bit of a fight for the back markers. McLaren wisely shuffles out the way. Dave Jr. gets the inside line, and there's been some contact back there. Van der Kraan turned around as he collected Dave Jr. Now Dave Jr. has made it through fine. Van der Kraan managing to recover the car, but that's not done them any favours as they are now approaching the next back marker in line, which is of course Alex Crawford in that ever noticeable Nissan as the only one on track. It's very identifiable. Is he going to cause any issues for these guys? As I think we're probably approaching the last lap now. Depends how quickly these guys can get over. Tractor still fighting. Denise Pope still on the back of him. This has been the story of their race. These two Lexus drivers have been all over the back of each other all race. Doesn't matter who they're behind. They're now behind Reynolds. Before they were behind Adam Locke. It really doesn't matter. These two dueling it out for the championship. Well, not for the championship, but for the position here. And I think this is for podium places in silver as well. I think Reynolds is currently second. Tractor currently third in silver. So Denise Pope looking to try and get on the podium. Tractor trying to improve his on Reynolds. Reynolds we've seen go wide occasionally. Luca Philippi not able to get onto the back of Banny this lap, as you can see in your bottom right, but there's some fighting going up ahead. Reynolds looking to make it past Van der Kraan, but Van der Kraan slowing him up, and there might have been a bit of contact between these two Lexus there. Tractor looks to the inside, Reynolds covers it off. Tractor says, right, well, I'll go the long way around the outside. We're seeing cars off through this corner. Tractor looking around the outside of Reynolds. I don't know if he's going to make that stick. Reynolds runs him out wide. Denise Pope looks to take the opportunity to go down the inside. Are we going to get 3 wide into the final corner? Maybe. Tractor looking to the inside, pushing off Pope. Raynal holds the inside line, holds to the front. I think it's going to slow up Denise Pope, and there we are over the line. It's going to be, I think, Raynal, then Tractor, then Pope, but there is nothing in it over the line. Very, very close racing, and I think that is the checkered flag that we've seen. And there you go, scoreboard confirming for me. Banny manages to hold off Philippi, and Nard Cox at the end. And what a fantastic race over the line. It couldn't have been any closer between those silver drivers, but yeah, we are seeing Banny taking pole, put it on pole in qualifying. Fantastic race, nice quiet one, right up until the end where Luca Philippi, who finished second, gave him a bit of pressure. Nard Cox preserving his championship lead in third place, and just some fantastic drives all the way around. Van der Linden leading the AM class, getting himself a bit closer to Wouter Vrints, and I think taking over second place in the AM Championship from Marius Friedrichsen, who finished a bit lower down. I think that is fourth place in the AM class for Marcus Friedrichsen, and our current AM leader maintains his lead with a comfortable third place in the AM category. So a great drive, great recovery drive from Wouter Vrints there, from being spun and ending up dead last, right at the end of that race. So brilliantly driven by him. And in the silver class we've got Tim Muris, who took the pole, by then Raynal, Tractor and Pope fighting for that final podium place right over the line. A fantastic foul, some great respect shown by all, and all mixed up by the leaders. So we're going to see some highlights now. This is the start of the race, and we'll see what happens next. It looks like we're riding on board with Denise Pope. What happened here then? We've got a bit of a chunk from behind there from somebody. Just trying to hang on, and there we go, a couple of cars out wide. We did see that on the broadcast, but mostly looks very well behaved. Where is Wouter Vrints in all of this? He's just up there and just goes straight on. I think he was trying to avoid an accident. It looks like someone maybe got turned around up there and just went straight on, which is fair enough. I had someone in chat say they started 35th, finished 16th and second in class. What a charge. But it looks like Denise Pope managed to keep herself out of trouble on this opening lap. But look, that Lexus up ahead, I think, is Tractor. So I think Denise and Tractor were behind each other for the whole race, which is impressive. I don't think those two left each other alone. The Lexus keeping each other company. And this is the, I think, Banny making a move on Luca Philippi early. Obviously, Luca got the jump on him early on in the race, but Banny managed to make some fantastic drive to get back in front of Luca and then hold Luca back, and just brilliantly driven, just hanging onto the back of Luca there through sector 1, and you can see there's two BMWs looming large in the background. Luca trying to keep as much between them as possible, and I think this might be the move. I think Banny dove to the inside here at Melbourne Hairpin. Are we going to see it? Yeah, there you go. Dives to the inside. Luca decides wisely not to make contact there. Almost loses the place. And we're going to see a replay of Wouter and see exactly what happened, because this is what ruined his race, I think, and put him all the way at the back. It looks like there's some contact up ahead. There's a spinning car, and Wouter just goes, I don't want to get involved in that. Wisely makes some accident avoidance, but does he manage to rejoin? Oh, it's scary. And then there's some contact behind, and he just gets turned. I think he collected a Ferrari there as well. Eyes, so unfortunate for Wouter Vrints there. A brilliant recovery drive to say what happened at the start, but he wasn't dead last. There's another car up there in the grass that you can see in the top of your screen. But yes, sometimes you avoid an incident and you end up in a bigger one. And this is the fight between Crawford and Hackler that we're watching on screen now. Crawford getting very sideways to the old hairpin, and Hackler going, all right, thank you very much, I'll get alongside. Trying to hold that outside line, which quickly becomes the inside line into McLean's, but he's through well before then. And I think we're having a couple of people join us now as we're watching the highlights. So we are joined by our podium. So, that was a pretty smooth race from you for the most part.
Yeah, quite intense. I mean, having to switch between TC8 and TC3, if you just forget it once, then yeah, you have some nice slides, but at least I think it has also looked nice on stream. And I mean, with the traffic as well, it was quite intense. But yeah, I mean, Luckily, we were racing quite sensibly. I mean, apart from me making a move, but luckily we were in the same voice chat, so I could also instantly tell him, just look out for me. And yeah, luckily the move went quite well, and it was quite a fun race too.
It did look like quite an aggressive move into the Melbourne hairpin, but it was fair. And Luca, you managed to stay out of that quite nicely. How much of that was, you thinking about the championship, you thinking about the overall points, and how much of it was, I just don't want to get hit?
That was rather Clay telling me I'm sending it, I'm sorry. Then just moving out of the race, I'm not getting caught out. Not to crash, to be honest.
No, it's not worth a crash, especially this late in the championship. I mean, it looked like you were trying to keep Nard well behind you as much as you could, but Nard, a fantastic recovery drive to get into third place. Just, I think, pipped it in the last couple of laps to get into that third place and keep your championship lead as big as possible going into the final round.
Yeah, I was catching up to Ben. I don't know, the pace in the second stint wasn't as good. And then in the second to last hairpin, I think he punted the back marker. So that put him off, so I could go into the inside and overtake him there. So yeah, that was nice. All in all, first stint was a bit rough. Second stint was okay. Only had 2 track warnings already in the first 3 laps, so yeah, that puts you on the back foot a bit. You have to be a bit more careful.
Yeah, especially through that chicane where I imagine you
that's where
a few of those track cuts. It's very easily done, especially when that box on the left just disappears within a lap.
I saw Clyde already take it out in the warm-up lap, so
didn't take long to get rid of it then.
Exactly.
But as things stand, I think there's 10 points between you and Luca for the championship going into the final round. So keeping it interesting. But yeah, quite fantastic drive, putting it on pole. The Mercedes bop round here just looked incredible. I don't know if a lot of it is the car, or you just felt like you drove an amazing drive, but that Mercedes looked unstoppable today.
I mean, pace was quite poor, to be honest, both in quali and the race. I mean, there was another 4-5 tenths in it from my side, so yeah, I just couldn't get it hooked up. I think that also made it a bit more exciting than it should have been, but anyway, at least it provided some good entertainment. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, Porsche's also, I think Porsche and the Merc are probably the 2 quickest cars, but in terms of BOP, this is probably one of the most evenly matched BOP, I think, in general, where there's like 4 or 5 tenths between all the modern cars.
I don't think you can come in here and say, oh, that was really struggling for pace when you put it on pole and won the race. I think that you weren't struggling for pace that much, maybe, against your own high expectations, but it was still a very quick drive from you overall. But it was a good show. It was definitely a good show. Some of the sideways action, as you say, you were switching between TCs mid-race. That definitely, you could see the slip angle, especially through the old hairpin. We had some good shots of you through there and through McLean's getting a little bit sideways. But we're used to sideways Mercedes in this championship, so always a joy to see.
At least I got the award for most style points as well. Got both wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Stole most style points off Steve Parker, who I don't think was here tonight, who's usually our sideways Mercedes, who always needs a mention whenever I'm casting. But yeah, no, fantastically driven race by all of you. Congratulations on your respective places, and look forward to seeing you battle it out at Zandvoort.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Definitely. See you guys in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Perfect.
See you.
And for those of you left on the stream, you're just watching the end of the highlights. As I just mentioned, our final round of the championship in just 2 weeks' time at Zandvoort. I'll be joined again by Patrick Princey, who will be bringing the force back to the commentary box, so it won't just be me, thankfully. And you'll get to enjoy all of the racing. And here you go. Here's the rounds we've had so far. Paul Ricard, Brands Hatch, Nurburgring, Laguna Seca, Monza all 2 weeks ago, and Donnington Park, our final round over at Zandvoort. But that's not all the racing we have for you at Simsport Racing International. If you're not interested in GT3s, perhaps you're interested in GC4s, at which point you can come and join us. I believe we are at Laguna Seca next by my maths. Yep, so that will be next week on the Tuesday. Princey, my fellow caster, should be racing in that, and I may be too. Keep an eye out for that one. Laguna Seca will be the track that the GT4s are going at in just a week's time, so if you'd like to join us for that, you are more than welcome to here on the YouTube channel or down in the description below. But maybe GT cars just aren't your speed, then you can join us on Thursdays for the Porsche Super Cup. And this Thursday they'll be driving at Monza. Monza, Porsche, not a terribly iconic duo, but these cars cracking amount of fun to watch, especially with the fact they have no traction control. and no tyre warmers, so it should be an exciting one at Monza as the penultimate race of the season. But, you know, maybe that's still not your thing. Maybe you just don't like ACC. Maybe you'd want to watch some race room. Then we have our World Touring Car Championship taking part at Autodrome Most. Again, that will be next Thursday the 20th of April, if you wanted to join us fast. So you can see lots going on at Simsport Racing International, and you're more than welcome to join us. Link down in the description below if you'd like to come and find out what we're about, or you can just stick around on the YouTube channel and watch all the fantastic races casted by our fantastic casting team, and of course our wonderful broadcasting team. Thanks as always to Tom, who's been broadcasting for you the entire evening, silently in the background, telling me bits and golden nuggets of what's going on track for you, in order to bring you the best possible experience. So thanks again, and thank you to you for coming and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to catch that next one. And maybe you don't remember it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:30. Don't forget. But if you don't, like and subscribe, and you can always follow there. I've been Daniel Higgins, and it's been a pleasure to cast for you today. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and for now, I'll leave you with the rest of the highlights. Good night.